Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's story is one of those moments that completely flips everything you thought you knew. Because Vernon's sudden collapse isn't just shocking, it's the beginning of something much deeper and far more dangerous. So here's what's happening. Vernon, a man who has always been strong, controlled, and almost untouchable, suddenly finds himself in a situation he cannot dominate. It starts subtly, almost too quietly to notice a headache here, a moment of confusion there, a little fatigue that doesn't quite make sense. But like many people who are used to being in control, Vernon ignores it. He pushes through, brushes it off, convinces himself it's nothing serious. And then everything changes in an instant. He collapses just like that. No warning that anyone took seriously enough. No time to prepare. One moment he's standing, functioning, living his life like nothing can touch him. And the next he's on the ground, completely vulnerable. He's rushed to the hospital and suddenly the entire atmosphere shifts. Fear creeps in, questions start flooding, and slowly the truth begins to reveal itself. Doctors suspect something neurological, and then comes the word no one wants to hear: a brain tumor. Let's really sit in this moment because this is where everything starts to unravel emotionally. Imagine being Vernon for a second. This is a man who doesn't just live life, he controls it, every decision, every move, every interaction. Calculated, he's always been the one in charge, the one people look to, the one who doesn't break. And now, he's lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by machines, doctors speaking in careful tones, and uncertainty hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. I can't even imagine how that must feel. At first, he doesn't accept it. Of course, it doesn't. That's not who he is. His first instinct isn't fear, it's resistance. He questions everything: the tests, the conclusions, the doctors themselves. He looks for flaws in their logic, alternative explanations, anything that gives him a sense that this can still be controlled, managed, beaten through sheer will. But deep down he knows, and that's the part that hits hardest because it's not the loud panic or dramatic reaction. It's that quiet realization, that moment when everything goes still and he understands that something is very, very wrong. Meanwhile, Madison steps into a role she'd never wanted but cannot avoid. She's been noticing the signs all along, the subtle changes, the things others overlooked or chose not to confront, and now she's the one standing at the edge of a truth that could shatter Vernon completely. Think about that pressure. It's not just about explaining a diagnosis, it's about telling someone else, like Vernon, a man built on strength and certainty, that his body is betraying him, that his mind, the very thing that defines him, could be at risk. And you can feel her conflict. There is guilt there, a heavy, suffocating guilt. Like maybe she should have said something sooner. Maybe she should have pushed harder. Maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't have gotten this far if she had acted earlier. And now it's too late for maybe. Now it's about what comes next. As more tests come in, things don't get better. They get more complicated. The tumor isn't just there. It's aggressive, positioned in a way that makes every option dangerous. Surgery could remove it, but at what cost? Speech, memory, personality, everything that makes Vernon who he is could be altered forever. And that's where his fear finally starts to show, not outwardly, not dramatically, but internally. Because for Vernon, losing his mind is worse than losing his life. So what does he do? He starts thinking, calculating, planning. Even in that hospital bed, even with everything slipping out of his control, he refuses to surrender. He begins asking questions, deep technical questions that most patients wouldn't even think of. Survival rates, long-term effects, alternative treatments, experimental options. You can almost see it happening. He's not just listening to the doctors, he's analyzing them, trying to find a way to turn this situation into something he can still control. Madison sees it immediately, that look in his eyes, that dangerous determination, the same one he's had in every high-stakes situation before. But this time it's terrifying, because this isn't business. This isn't strategy, this is life or death. And when she confronts him, when she tries to bring him back to reality, that conversation hits hard. You are not invincible, she says, trying to keep her voice steady. And Vernon, I have never needed to be. I just need to be right. That line says everything because it shows exactly where his mind is. He is not thinking like a patient. He is thinking like a man trying to outplay fate itself. And that kind of thinking is dangerous. Outside the hospital room, things are spiraling in their own way. The news spreads because something like this can stay hidden, and once people find out, the reactions start pouring in. Some are shocked, some are scared, some are in denial, and then there are those who start re evaluating everything. Old conflicts suddenly feel different. Either they don't matter anymore or they matter more than ever because when someone's life is uncertain, priorities shift in ways you can't predict. Conversations that were avoided before, they happen now. Words that were held back, they come out. There is this urgency, this emotional pressure that builds with every passing moment. And then comes the twist that changes everything again. A specialist is brought in. Not just any doctor, but someone with a completely different approach. Someone who offers an option that isn't safe, isn't guaranteed, isn't even fully understood. Experimental treatment. And the moment Vernon hears about it, you just know he's going to consider it. Of course he is, because it represents something he desperately needs: control, a way to fight this battle on his own terms. Not just sit back and hope for the best. But Madison, she's torn apart by it. Because she sees both sides, the hope and the risk. This treatment could save him, or it could make everything worse, faster, and choosing it means stepping into a future filled with uncertainty, where nothing is promised. This storyline hits differently because it's not just about illness, it's about identity. Vernon's entire life has been built on control, intelligence, and power, and now all of that is under threat. The tumor doesn't just challenge his health, it challenges who he is at his core, and that's what makes every decision so heavy. Because it's not just should he have surgery or should he try to experimental treatment, it's who is he willing to become in order to survive. At the same time, this situation exposes everyone around him. Relationships are tested in ways they never have been before. People are forced to confront their feelings, their regrets, their unresolved issues. And let's be real, this is where things can get messy. Because when emotions are high and time feels limited, people don't always make the best decisions. They act on impulse, on fear, on desperation, and that creates the perfect storm for drama. There is also that lingering question: is everything being told truthfully, or is there something being hidden? Because in a situation like this, secrets have a way of surfacing at the worst possible moment. Honestly, this storyline is incredibly powerful, and I think that what makes it stand out is how real it feels emotionally. It's not just about the shock factor, it's about the slow, painful realization of what's happening and how it affects everyone differently. Vernon's refusal to immediately accept his situation feels very human. A lot of people would react the same way, especially someone who's used to being in control. And Madison's emotional struggle, that's just as compelling because she is caught between truth and protection, between logic and emotion. The introduction of the experimental treatment is such a smart move because it raises the stakes even higher. It's not a clear choice, there is no obvious right answer, and that kind of uncertainty keeps things incredibly engaging. So now the big question is, what would you do if you were Vernon? Would you take the risk and go for the experimental treatment, or play it safe and trust the traditional path? And what about Madison? Should she support his decision no matter what, or try to stop him before it's too late? I really want to hear your thoughts on this, because this is one of those storylines where every perspective matters. If you enjoyed this deep dive, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Trust me, this story is only getting started, and what happens next could change everything.